Hi, my name is Riley Allen. This is my review of Season 1, Episode 12 of Trollhunters Tales of Arcadia, titled Claire and Present Danger. We start off with Strickler, Bular, and Nomura all attempting to release Gunmar and the other Gum-Gums from the Darklands, with the amulet that Strickler took from Jim, only to find out that while it kinda works, it doesn't fully open the portal, because, well, it's his to command, Jim's. So they realize they need Jim. Then we go to Toby trying to convince Not Enrique to go to the Darklands and get Claire's brother. Not Enrique is barely says, hell no. No. I went through that shit, not doing it again. So they regroup back at Toby's house, Jim, Toby, Arg, and Blinky, and they try to figure out what they're going to do. Because Jim's fully set on getting Claire's brother. And that's when Noam Chomsky volunteers to go to the Darklands. And this is another thing, like, what if Jim had killed Chomsky like Blinky wanted? Who would have gone into the Darklands? But luckily, Chomsky was there, and he volunteered, and was immediately lost. They threw him in with a rope, but the rope snapped. But Blinky said he's a feisty one, or a scrappy one. He'll survive. Considering Blinky was also campaigning for his death like 10 episodes ago, that's some high praise. We also have Not Enrique being attacked by the goblins, although the leader, Fragua, was killed by a picture of Claire, which means, of course, they think Claire killed the Fragua, so they're going after Claire. Not Enrique books it to Toby's house to tell him what happened. Blinky slams him on the desk. You mean you brought them here? And upon finding out that no, they're after Claire, Jim slams him on the desk. And upon finding out that the Killerhead Bridge is complete, Toby slams him on the desk. Jim books it. He's going to Claire's. Blinky is going to find Killerhead Bridge, and Arg and Toby are going to protect Jim. Jim gets into Claire's room, climbs to her roof, goes in her room, and immediately starts acting like a nutcase. Well, he's telling the truth, but, from Claire's perspective, he's a nutcase. Magic amulets, swords, goblins, trolls. Did he take a schizophrenic medicine today? Must not have. Also, if I was Claire, I wouldn't open the window. Just saying. She shouldn't open that window, by the way. I'm just saying. So then Jim tries to summon daylight and, the armor. But, of course, it's a fake amulet. He doesn't realize that yet. Eventually, he brings her to Enrique's room and shows her Enrique ain't here. And he finally convinces her to start running. And they notice the goblins. And she's like, oh my god, those are not raccoons. Those are not raccoons. Jim grabs a stick and she grabs rocks and they just start throwing them. One of the favorite things is when they eventually found out Enrique wasn't there, she hit him with a right hook and he was like, dang, you got a good right arm. And then eventually, when she started using her left, you got a good left one too. And then my most favorite scene, this has got to be my favorite scene in all of Trollhunters. I don't think anything's going to top it. He keeps trying to summon daylight, or, the amulet, and eventually, like Mjolnir, the amulet rose up from in the museum, dragging Strickler up with it a little bit, turning back to bop Bular on the nose, and then booking it, like Mjolnir being summoned by Thor. And then, as if Jim is some medieval Iron Man, because this is kind of what it reminds me of. Iron Man suiting up, all the armor flying to him and strapping onto him. This is what it felt like. This was awesome. And of course, once he's got his sword, he defeats the goblins, fairly quickly. And then Nomura comes. And he sends Claire out back home. And she runs to get her father. While Toby and Arg are right on their tail. Jim puts up a very good fight, but eventually gets defeated. And as Nomura drags his unconscious body, she hears Claire and her father running to her, and Toby and Arg on another, and she decides it's not worth it, and lets him go. Claire and her father reach Jim, and Toby goes him as well, telling Arg to stay there. They bring him to the hospital, where we see, of course, his mom. And the final scene is Blinky being captured by Boolar and Strickler to use as bait for Jim. This was my favorite episode, I think. So far, this was my favorite episode. I'm going to say it's a 10 out of 10, but honestly, there's no such thing as a 10 out of 10. I'm sure once I give it a few minutes to settle down, it'll go back to being a 9. But, fresh off of watching, it's a 10 out of 10, but probably it's going to go down to a 9 and stay there. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.